Let's discuss now with Democratic Congressman Moulton of Massachusetts. He served in the Iraq War. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Obviously, there are a range of recommendations coming from Congress as to how the U.S. should respond to this attack, some calling for directly targeting Tehran. You have suggested those calls play into the enemy's hands. What should the United States do?
I mean, we clearly need to send a decisive message that this kind of behavior is unacceptable. It won't be tolerated, and we're going to strike back. But starting a war would indeed play into our enemy's hands. I mean, we have had these Iranian proxies attacking U.S. troops in the Middle East for 20 years. Let's not forget, this has been going on for a long time. When I was on the ground in Iraq, Iranian-made weapons in the hands of Iranian proxies in Iraq were killing literally hundreds of Americans every single year. Deterring that is hard, but through Democratic and Republican administrations, we have known that we want to deter without starting a war. These militant groups are trying to start a war. That's what they want. They're not attacking U.S. troops to strike a trade deal here. They want a war. We don't want to play into their aims. We want to stop a war, not start one.
I'm curious what you make of the assessment from the U.S. that Iran is not eager for a direct conflict, but you're saying that these militia groups are. It seems like a very passive-aggressive policy by Iran, that they do not want to directly attack the United States, but they're happy if these proxy groups kill Americans. How do you deal with that?
You know, if there's one thing I learned over about 3 years on the ground in the Middle East, over 4 tours in Iraq, is that the Middle East is not a black and white place. Iran is not a black and white country. It may be true that the higher echelons of Iranian leadership do not want a broader war, and I've seen intelligence that supports that as well, while at the same time, some of the forces like the Quds Force that are directly supporting these militias in Iraq and around the Middle East, they do actually want a war. There is this great divide in Iran between the hardline forces that want to attack the West and the forces that actually want to reconcile and reform that country for the better. So what we don't want to do is empower the hardliners here. We don't want to empower the militias. Yeah. We want to stop the militants while actually empowering the democratic forces throughout the Middle East, not just in Iran, but in all the other countries in question here as well.
Congressman, I want to get your response to Republicans who argue that the Biden administration has been weak on Iran, that in their eyes they have tried to broker a deal with Tehran and doing so by appeasing them, unfreezing billions of dollars worth of assets and such. What would you say to them about the proper way to conduct foreign policy with Tehran?
I mean, again, this is not black and white, and we should be doing both things. We need to send decisive messages to Iran that this kind of militant behavior is not going to be acceptable. The Biden administration will do that. They're going to choose exactly when and how they respond. But I'm confident, just as President Biden has said, that he will respond. But to say that we should never have any diplomacy, especially with the elements in the Middle East that are allied to our interests, that's ridiculous. And many of these Republicans served in Republican administrations. Some of them before coming to Congress, that faced the exact same problem and had the exact same dual-pronged approach. I mean, let's not forget that under President Bush, when we were in Iraq, with Dick Cheney as his vice president, we were losing dozens and dozens of American servicemen to Iranian-backed attacks. But at the same time, that Republican president did not want to start a war with Iran, just like President Trump. President Trump wanted to hit back at Iran, but was very careful not to start a war. So, you know, throughout history here, at least the last 2 decades, this has been a complicated problem, and that's why it deserves a complex solution, a mixture of hard military messages with tactical diplomacy.
So what more needs to be done to protect U.S. service members in the region? Because what we're hearing from the White House is, as of a few days before this incident, President Biden saying that a message had been sent to Iran and its proxies in the region. It doesn't seem like they're getting that message.
Look, I think that's a fair assessment, and I think the president would agree with that as well. He's been working to walk this line between deterrence and actually starting a war, but clearly we need to put more pressure militarily on these militant, these terrorist groups. But there are other things that need to be done as well. I mean, in terms of protecting U.S. troops, the administration has come out and said that it looks like our air defenses were confused because a U.S. drone was coming into the base at the same time as this attack. You know, regardless of whether this was a sophisticated enemy attack that it did exactly that tried to confuse our air defenses or not, I think confused here is a polite term for mistake. We've got to stop these drones, whether they come at the same time as our drones or not. So clearly we need to make sure that we have robust air defenses, drone defenses, that our operators are trained for this kind of situation, because I think we'll find that a mistake was made here, and that's part of why 3 troops lost their lives.
And on that note, Congressman, I do want to leave by asking you about those 3 personnel, those 3 service members, Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, and Specialist Breonna Moffett. As someone who served, what is your message to their families?
My message to their families is that there's nothing that we can do, either in the future or the past, to bring back your loved ones, and you are bearing an inordinate cost for our security and safety. But know that your loved ones were standing out there on the front in the Middle East, because it's important to our national security, because we don't want a broader war in the Middle East that will cost thousands and thousands of American lives. That because standing with our allies in the Middle East and all across the globe helps fundamentally protect us at home. So don't think for a second that these deaths were in vain.
Congressman Seth Moulton, our hearts go out to their families. We appreciate your time.